to understand string literals and characters isn't specific just to Swift. The first part of this video is kind of relative to any programming language because they pretty much all follow the same standard. Now, as we get later into the video, we'll start talking about Swift specifics, but generally speaking, you will get a good understanding for all programming languages. So what is a string literal and what are characters? Well, we can see here, print string literals and characters. Let's run this, and the answer literally is in the question, okay? So strings are a bunch of characters, basically. So C is a character, R is a character, C is a character, T, E, R, S. And then space is also a character. It doesn't have any visual reference on it, but it is a character. And then A, N, D, and so on. And we can say that a quotation mark is a character, a exclamation mark. Basically anything is a character that you can see on a keyboard. And there are lots and lots more other types of characters that we can talk about that you can't see on the keyboard. But basically, when we say anything from A to Z through to A to Z, 0 through to 9, and then all of the symbols, this is basically what we're talking about, right? And obviously white space as well. And then tabs also are characters, okay? So this is what we're talking about when we talk about a character. Now, let's start with characters first of all. So let's talk about the letter A. And we can define a character by basically saying character, and this we then say the letter A. So if we do a little bit of type inference, we see it actually is letter A. Let's now do type inference with the letter B and see what it comes up with. You can see it gives a string because it thinks, well, wait a minute, you're using the quotation mark, so the safest bet here is that you want to add other characters to the end of it. Now, if you do want to add other characters to the end of it, this variable B is not going to allow it because obviously it was a let, but we could then say, append, and we could then say B3, for example, and then print B here, and we can see then the output is then B3. So what we are saying to this is append the character to the end of this, because this is a string, literal in here, and the type of B was a string. Now, as you can see, when we change it to a character, value of type character has no member append, because you can't append another character onto a character. So this is not possible to be done. We could then turn around and say C would be okay. So if we then run this, and now you'll see that B is actually equal to the literal character of C. Now, what about if we want to put CD in it? What do we get then? Cannot assign a value of string to type character. So the second that you put two characters inside of this one, in these double quotation marks, then the compiler starts moaning. And that even is all about whether or not you put a space in there as well. Any other character that is basically on the ASCII table, it is going to make this cause to have a problem. So this is what a character is. So this is now, what you have to understand is that a string basically is just a whole bunch of characters all concatenated on together to be a collection of characters, all right? So when we come and say name is equal to David, then this is nothing more than D-A-V-I-D, all put together to be inside of one, let's call it a collection of characters. Now, let's just say that you wanted to have a special character inside of a string as well. So let's just call this special. And maybe we want to make a quote from someone. So we want to say, life is short. I don't know who said that, but I'm saying it right now. We can escape these backslashes by using the escape character, which is then a backslash. So when it comes to have a look at this one string, it sees, okay, we've now got a backslash, and if there is a special character after it, then it will take this as a literal character, and it won't see this double quote and say, okay, I'm going to be a string now. So now it is a literal character, and this builds and compiles and runs as per normal. Now when we initialize a string, let's just say var my name, and we do it like this. What we've done here is basically use the empty string literal. So it means there's nothing inside of it, all right? And there is a specific property on strings where we can say my name is empty. And this is basically saying, do you have nothing in it whatsoever? And so an empty string is basically saying there are no elements in this at all. And we can always ask, we can always say, we don't have to check is name is equal to this. We can just say if name is empty. Every single string has this one property on it, and this is a Boolean property, so we can see that here it returns true or false. All right. What about if we now want to make David, and we'll start it with an empty string as we've just seen, and now we can say David plus equals D. Right, and David plus equals, this is going to get boring very, very quickly, so we're just going to do it all at once. And now we can just say print David, and when we build and run it, you can see that it's concatenated the strings together. So what it's done is it's mutated this variable to say, hey, you started off being an empty string, and now we are adding an additional character onto that collection, and then we are adding 4 more characters onto that one collection and assigned it to the variable David. Okay, so this is how you can mutate a string as well. All right, this is essentially kind of a string concatenation, but it's really called string mutability. All right, so it's mutating a string. So now that we've seen how to add, let's call it, characters onto a string, what about if we want to then concatenate? So let's just say surname here. Surname, if I can spell it correctly. Oh dear, am I typing right now? What's going on? So now we've got my surname, and let's say full name, right? What we can do is we can say David plus, and then we can say a space, and plus surname here too. We can say surname here too, and then print full name, and build, run, execute code. And you can see here that we have concatenated, and this is using the @ sign. So what is happening here is full name essentially is saying, let's rewrite it once again to be a bit more clearer of what is actually happening here. So we'll say full name is equal to an empty string, right? And then full name plus equals David, and then full name, well, so we need to put an underscore by this. Then full name plus equals, then we're going to do an empty space, and then full name plus equals then surname. This is basically exactly what is going on here. Oh, forgot that. This is basically exactly what is going on here. In this one here, this is just like a short version of this. And when we run, when we build and run it, you can see the exact same thing happens. So you don't have to. So we showed you this string mutability. And so this basically, the concatenation is string mutability, but in its shortest form. All right. So this is what it is. This is relative to that. All right. They're the same thing, but you can just write it all in one sentence. Now, we talked about in another video that we could use then string interpolation, where we could just say name, or it's David, sorry, and then here say surname. This is also a quick way of doing it. This is also a quick way of doing it as well. Which one you choose is definitely up to you. Now, we could, if we wanted to, remove this one space in David, and because David is a string, what we could say then is just say like a space is here, right? And then we could say David then append, and then space. And what we're going to do here is just say that space is a character, and then we're going to append the space onto the end of the onto David, and then we're going to run this, and now you'll see that we still get exactly the same thing. And if we put then a pipe rather than a space into this, we'll see the difference down here. All right, that we can append a character onto the end of that one collection of characters, which we call a string, basically. Now, if you want to be able to know how many characters are in a string, we can do that really easily. All right, so let's just say print once again, and rather than let's just use string interpolation here, and we're going to say full name length is equal to, and then we can just come here and say full name once again, and there's a property that every single string has is count. So when we build and run this, you can say that David Thorne length is equal to 11. So you can always work out what the size of it is. Now, some people, they may go, if full name is, or we say space dot length count, sorry, my mistake. Oh, sorry, we want to say, so sometimes you might want to test the length of something to see whether or not you can add another character or to add another character to it, or you just simply want to test it. Now you could, when we look back at is empty. Is empty basically is synonymous to saying if full name count is equal to 0. That's basically what it's doing, is that rather than saying count is equal to 0, it's literally just replacing that with is empty. So okay, this is now a good overview of strings, literals, and characters. We can dive deeper into other parts of using strings and characters in other videos, but I think for a fundamental understanding of what strings are, what string literals are, and so on, what characters are, and how to use them, and how to add strings together, and how to do lots of other things, I think this video has been long enough to be able to explain it. Like I said, I will make additional videos, and pretty much all programming that you do, when it has got to do with strings or passwords or text or something, you will use lots of these things throughout your code. So you don't really need to practice it much, because it will be part of your day in programming to do all this stuff. With that said, I hope that you got something out of this one video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and if you do have any questions, feedback, or concerns, then make sure that you put them in the comment section below. So I'll see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao, and goodbye.